before. Kung Hee Fat Choi, everyone. Happy Chinese New Year. Happy Valentine's Day. We get Monday off. I hope you get to enjoy a lovely long weekend filled with holidays. This is our first full meeting of 2021. So it's nice to see all of you. I hope you've remained healthy during this challenging time and your families. This is a public meeting, as are all of our Workforce Development Council meetings, published accordingly. And so we invite and we have on members of the public. So we're pleased to have you. The voting board members and guests are both right now in this Zoom platform. We are going to ask the guests who are not voting members to please write your name and the organization you represent or private citizen in the chat box so that we can accurately reflect that you are in attendance in our meeting minutes. So if you could do that, that would help our minute and record keeping. Thank you. For the voting board members, we are on the public Zoom platform right now, but as noted in the agenda, there is an executive session. So when we go into executive session, we will move into a separate Zoom room. You'll see a little blue box down in the right-hand corner of your screen to hit, and that will take you into our executive session Zoom platform. For our non-voting board members and for our public guests, you will just stay on this platform. We will rejoin you later after discussions in executive session have concluded. So those are the housekeeping orders of the day. So now, to ensure that we do have quorum, I'm going to do a roll call for attendance, and our staff will be counting members so that I can declare quorum. So I will start, and Leslie Wilkins, I'm honored to serve as your chair present. And then I'm going to go across the screen as I see it, and just please go on the record announcing your name and your organization. So up with me, Ian Kitajima, you're in the top left corner. Ian?
Good morning, everybody. Ian Kitajima from Oceanit, co-chair of the Youth Committee.
Great. And then next to my right, I have Linda Popolo.
Excuse me, Chair, do you want to just go down the list, please?
Oh, you want me to go down the list? Okay,
yes,
sorry.
please.
I thought you wanted me to do
no,
everyone.
Please, on the notes. Those
right.
are the board members, so those are what we need the roll call for.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you for the instruction. Maureen Bates.
Morning, this is Maureen Bates from the Department of Human Services, Voc Rehab. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Lum is here for Mayor Blangiardi.
Good morning, Allison Lum, representing Andrew Kawano, who's designated to Mayor Blangiardi.
Thank you. Tim Wong for Jason Chang, Oahu Workforce Development Board.
Good morning, this is Tim Wong. I'm representing Oahu Workforce Development Board.
Great. Senator Stanley Chang. I don't hear Senator. It's a busy time for him, so if he joins us later, I'll acknowledge him. David DeLuz Jr.
County Workforce Development Board.
Thank you. Yvette Gibson. Not hearing Yvette. No, it's a busy time for her. She's coordinating getting that vaccines out. So we thank her for her important work right now. And if she comes back on, we'll acknowledge her. Has my vice chair, Alan Hayashi. Alan?
I don't think he's there yet.
All righty. John Chin, representing Governor Ige.
Hello, Chair. John Chin, representing the Governor's Office. Present.
Great. Jason Ito.
Good morning, everyone. Jason Ito, Kyoya Management Company, and Chair of the Data Management and Technology Committee.
Thank you. Jackie Kaina. Okay, not hearing Jackie yet. Glenn Kanashige. Okay. Nilani Brune, representing Mayor Kawakami.
Yes, Nalani Boone from County of Kauai, representing Mayor Kawakami.
Thank you. Helen Sampe for Superintendent Kishimoto.
Helen Sanpe, Principal, McKinley Community School for Adults. Thank you.
Ian, I already called on you. Sean Knox. Yeah, I believe Sean is attending. Bernadette Howard for UH President Lasner and Career Technical Education.
Bernadette Howard, State Office for Career Technical Education.
Great. Erica LaCroix, also representing UH President Lasner and our community college system.
Erica LaCroix, present with the UH Community Colleges. Thank you.
Brian Lee.
Brian Lee, Hawaii Laborers and Employers Cooperation Fund and Chair of the Performance Measures and Accountability Committee.
Thank you. Wayne Liu for DBED, representing Director McCartney.
I'm Wayne Liu, DBED, designee for Director Mike McCartney.
And welcome home, Wayne. We always, when you're here, we always welcome you back to WDC. Representative Mark Nakashima. Again, busy time for our legislators. We'll acknowledge him if he can join us. Cheryl Nojima. Okay, Shannon Okinaka.
Good morning, everyone. Shannon Okinaka, Hawaiian Airlines and Chair of the Finance Committee.
Director Estokio from DLIR. Director, I didn't see her. Legislative session also busy for her. We'll recognize her if she can join us later. Marikar Freitas of Workforce Development Division.
Kohifai Choi, everyone. I'm Marikar Pilotin Freitas for the Workforce Development Division.
Chuck Shima.
Good morning, Chuck Shima, Training Coordinator, Plumbers Union, Local 675.
Brian Tatsumura.
Good morning, Brian Tatsumura, owner Brian T 808 LLC. Thank you.
Sunshine Topping. Okay. Joanne Inimasu, representing our Mayor Victorino from Maui. Not seeing Joe. Winona Whitman.
Aloha, Winona Whitman with Alulike, Statewide Employment and Training Director.
Thank you. And Karen Wong.
Hi, Karen Wong from Lanakila Pacific.
Thank you, Karen. We're also very pleased to welcome some new governor's appointees. Jason Bradshaw of ILWU Local 142.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Also, another Jason Brand from Kunia Country Farms.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Kira Higa of Hawaiian Telecom.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Ken Louie of Pacific Marine.
Morning, everyone. Happy to be here.
Welcome. Carrie Miyashiro of the Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union.
Okay, Carrie Miyashiro, Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. You work with my good friend Kevin over here on Maui. And April Chun Aquavella from the Carpenters Apprenticeship and Training Fund.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great. Welcome to all of you. We're delighted to have you representing important sectors to join our board. So thank you so much.
Chair, you may have missed Alicia Moy.
Did I miss Alicia? I'm so sorry, Alicia.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Alicia Moy, Hawaii Gas. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so delighted you're here.
Me too.
Okay. I'm seeing quorum, just confirming that with staff.
Yes, you have quorum.
All right, very good. We will continue to do our business. Again, as pointed out earlier, Doris DeVon, who's usually assigned to us as our Attorney General, We're pleased to have Adam Rosenberg as our Deputy Attorney General joining us today. He has been with us many times as pinch hitting, so we're glad to have you here today. Thank you, Adam. We appreciate it. Doris, I think, is scheduled to join us later after her court case ends, so thank you for filling in. I have a few chairs updates, and then we'll go into voting approval of minutes. So first of all, I want to recognize the executive committee has had a chance to do this, but I want to recognize it with our full board. General Richardson, I want to thank him with a much heartfelt gratitude for his work on the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee and Executive Committee. In fact, he actually, excuse me, was the impetus for us adding this very important committee to the Workforce Development standing committees. I am reporting, however, that he has chosen to resign for health reasons, so we totally support that, and we want to thank him. He would like to remain on the committee as a member, which we totally are grateful for, and Alan Hayashi has agreed to serve as the interim committee chair until we can select a new chair. So we really appreciate Alan stepping up. Excuse me just a minute, I need a drink of water.
Chair, this is Alan. We passed that message on to the general yesterday, and thank you. He was appreciative of that. Thank you.
Well, we're very, very appreciative of his work and support.
And Chair Cheryl Nojima has joined us now too.
Aloha, Cheryl. Welcome. So also stepping in to lead is Bernadette Howard. Thank you, Bernadette, who's Vice Chair of the Sector Strategies and Career Pathways Committee. She joins Yvette Gibson to lead this really important committee. As I mentioned earlier in the introductions, Yvette has a really big job right now with the distribution of the COVID vaccines. So thank you for filling in. Much appreciated, Bernadette. And then just wanted to let you know that on January 21st, I had the pleasure of participating in the National Governors Association peer-to-peer learning opportunity for states who receive the U.S. Department of Education's Reimagine Workforce Grant. As you know, those grants were only, the portal for those grants to apply were only given to governors' national workforce boards. We were delighted to pass on that designation to our community college system, who put in a very impressive grant as announced earlier. And since we have Erica on the line, please extend our congratulations again to your team who put together an award-winning grant application with only 8 states selected for this really important work. It's a $13.3 million partnership with the Workforce Development Council and UH and other partners. So thank you again and congratulations. We're going to move on now to the approval of minutes. So as distributed, our November 12th minutes are there. So I'll give you just a minute to pull those out, review, and then I'll entertain a motion for their approval. November 12th seems like eons ago, doesn't it?
Chair, I move for approval.
Okay, Alan has moved for approval. Is there a second?
Bernadette.
Seconded by Bernadette. Are there any comments, corrections, additions, deletions from the minutes as they were distributed? Hearing none, how we're going to run the vote, I think this works the best in a virtual setting. So if you, when I call for voting aye, just please raise your hand, or you can use the reaction button hand. And then for those voting nay, I will have you unmute and voice your name, and any abstentions, I'll do the same. So I think that hopefully will streamline the process. Is that agreeable to staff on taking that, or do you need me to do you need to count? Is that agreeable, Allison and Jeannie, if we just do it that way? Okay, Allison, you're muted. I'm just going to have everyone, when I call for I, just raise their hands, and then we'll get a recording of the no's if there are any. If there are none, you can assume it was unanimous, and any abstentions, we'll have that name for the record. Okay, thank you. Got that housekeeping done. All in favor of approving the November 12th meeting minutes as presented, please raise your hand as an I vote. That looks pretty solid across my screen. Any nays, please unmute and state your name.
Hi, Chair. This is David DeLuz Jr. from Hawaii County. Unfortunately, I have to abstain. I did not attend that meeting.
Okay, so I'm calling for abstentions now. David DeLuz has abstained. Any other abstentions from voting on the minutes?
Alicia Moy Hawaii Gas abstaining as I was not at the meeting as well. Thanks.
We have Alicia abstaining. Anyone else? All right, motion has passed. Minutes were adopted as distributed with 2 abstentions noted for the record. We also had another set of minutes. They're the executive session meeting minutes for the same day, November 12th. Those were sent to the voting board members before the meeting for your review. And at this time, I would ask for a motion on the floor to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Alan Hayashi. Is there a second? I'm sorry, I'm not hearing. Is there a second for the executive committee minutes? Alan made the motion.
Second.
Second.
Winona, thank you. I see you. Winona is the second. Is there any comment, corrections, deletions, amendments? Hearing none, we'll do the same voting procedure. All in favor of voting aye, please raise your hand or use your reaction button if you don't have your camera on. Okay, any no votes? We'll take that first and then abstentions. Anyone voting no?
Hi, Chair.
Seeing
This
none.
is Dave. This is David again. Unfortunately, because of non-attendance, I need to abstain.
Sure.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we have David abstaining. Is there another abstention?
Chair, Alicia Moy Hawaii Gas abstaining.
Alicia is abstaining. Jason, or were you abstaining as well?
Yes, I'm abstaining. I missed that portion of the meeting.
Okay. All right.
Chair,
So
sorry.
any further
I need to-
abstentions?
Sorry, Chair. I need to abstain as well. That portion of the meeting I was not part of.
I understand. All right. Any further abstentions? Seeing none, motion has passed to adopt the executive committee minutes of November 12th with 4 abstentions noted for the record. Thank you. So we are, I'm not sure, so I would really like to introduce John Shin, who is a senior special assistant for Governor Ige, as Kim Sparlin was called away to another meeting. So John, do you just want to wave again and say, and thank you we're really happy to have representation from the governor's office. That's
Morning,
important.
thanks for having me.
Do you have anything that you would like to say on behalf of the governor?
Yeah, I just had a few short comments. Most of you probably got to hear a little bit of the state of the state. The governor really outlined kind of a digital economy as the future, and the jobs that are part of that, good paying jobs, ones that are a little more resilient than our current economy. And so really this group is where the rubber meets the road. You guys are doing the work that's going to be needed to transition our workforce as we move towards recovery. So I just wanted to highlight the state of the state. Definitely workforce development featured heavily in it, and it's an important part of the recovery for Hawaii. The other thing I just wanted to bring up really quick was that the governor's office, we brought together a group of agencies to pursue a National Governors Association Workforce Innovation Network grant opportunity. So it's a small grant, but we also get technical assistance from NGA. So we're going to be actually submitting that in a couple hours here. got to go make sure it got signed and then send it in. But big thanks to Allison and Kala from the Workforce Development Council, as well as Marikar from DLIR for helping out. We're also teaming up with DHS and ETS as well for that effort. But basically, we put in a proposal to try to explore more closely with NGA's technical assistance, a centralized one-stop shop for individuals who or job seekers who are trying to access state services. And so I think that's something that we've all recognized has been kind of a need in the past. Rather than going to 5 different websites, they'd be able to find services in one central location. So this is kind of the first step in heading in that direction. That's the only update I had. Thanks again for having me. Aloha.
Great, John. Thank you for that. And as I think you know, that in our strategic planning process, the WDC has put forward a resiliency plan, and elevating the digital literacy of our state is an integral underpinning of that. So very much aligned with what is coming from the governor's office. So we expect to be a good partner in all of that work. Thank you. So, well, during legislative session, you do know that our directors can get called away at a moment's notice. I didn't see Director Estocchio. Did she by chance join us? Okay, if not, we'll call upon her when she does arrive. I'm sure Allison will give me a heads up if that happens. So I am going to be exercising my chair's prerogative to move the published agenda to be able to get our committee report. Several of our committee chairs also are called away by ledge, and we've had a very robust and productive round of meetings. So I want to make sure you get a chance to hear from our committee chairs. So first of all, Brian Lee, who chairs our Performance Measures and Accountability Committee. Brian, we would love for you to report at this time.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your flexibility. Really appreciate it. I'll have to jump off, but I may be able to jump back on after my ledge session is over. So thank you. The Performance Measures and Accountability Committee met on January 20th, and the WDC staff reviewed the local area expenditures and the number of participants who were served. Jason Meraki presented the statewide annual performance measures report to the committee. We had to note that Kauai has not enrolled any youth program participants since 2016, and in the past year, the new service provider there has been reimbursed for personnel costs, but has not enrolled any participants. The WDC staff asked our committee to recommend action from the executive committee to intervene with Kauai County. And Kauai County's adult and dislocated workers programs also have an unacceptably low participant count. Subsequently, the executive committee voted to address these concerns with Kauai County, and I believe we'll be talking about that later. In addition, the Opportunities Population Subcommittee of the Employer Engagement Committee presented their report to us on the emerging themes of the AJC discovery process and their next steps. And finally, we have 3 updates on committee budgets and projects. Number 1, the statewide evaluation of training providers. A request for proposal for statewide evaluation was issued on January 11th, 2021, and WDC is looking for a provider to evaluate the current training providers that the American Job Centers refers clients to for training and compliance with federal, state, and county policies. The proposals are due by February 12th, tomorrow, and the budget is $75,000. The second project is a statewide evaluation of service providers, and WDC is working on that request for proposal to evaluate the providers with a budget also of $75,000. The target date will be to issue the RFP by the end of February 2021. And finally, number 3, a training project for training providers with a budget of $15,000, was approved to provide training for them, but after an internal review, it was decided that the training can be conducted within WDC with the assistance of the HireNet Hawaii vendor Geographic Solutions. So the 15,000 was reallocated to another project. And all three of these projects must be completed and funds expended by June 30th, 2021. And that's the end of my report, Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Much appreciated. Are there any questions for Brian? Hearing none, thank you very much. We also have another member of our committee who has a conflict. So is Glenn here for to report? I know that he is trying to wedge in this meeting among a very busy schedule.
Madam Chair, I don't see Glenn on the call.
All right. When Glenn comes, we'll let him also do his employer engagement committee report because he was saying that he had to also leave early. Also, I believe that our finance chair may have to leave early. Would we like to accelerate Shannon's report at this time? Or that's, Shannon, I'm open to whatever's convenient for you and staff.
Thanks, Leslie. I can do it now. I'll have to jump off at 11 and then come back on shortly thereafter. But I can give the finance report now.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So WDC received a $1.5 million COVID-related disaster recovery grant to cover salaries for workers whose employment has been impacted by COVID-19 and who we've helped then since then find employment in humanitarian and recovery positions. So WDC entered into a contract with Hawaii Employment Services to execute a significant portion of the grant. WDC also received a separate $1.5 million grant related to COVID-19 for employment recovery. And this grant is to provide services and training to workers who have lost employment due to COVID-19. And those monies were granted to 3 local areas, Honolulu, Hawaii Island, and Maui. For local area funds that were, for the PY18 funds that were returned to the state, which was about $1.6 million. WDC has expenditure plans for about $1.4 million, and the committee brainstormed some ideas for the remainder of the remaining 200,000, which needs to be spent by June 30 of this year. We also recommended to the executive committee, which subsequently approved a $50,000 grant for work-based learning opportunities through the UH Political Science Department. We had a similar section in our report that Brian had related to the Kauai Youth Program, where all other counties are serving participants in the programs, and we reviewed the amounts expended for those programs, which seemed reasonable, except for the Kauai Youth Program, which, although having 0 participants, is expending funds. So we did bring that to the attention of the executive committee, and as Brian said, I believe we'll have further discussion on that later. Relative to the state general funds, our original state general fund allotment was $463,000 for this fiscal year, but we've been informally notified of a potential return of $300,000 to the department, but we don't expect any impact from that give back of the $300,000 in funds. And that was it.
Thank you, Shannon. Are there any questions for our finance chair, Shannon? All right, thank you. Hearing none, I have word also that Jason Ito has an 11:30 departure. So Jason, we'd love to hear from you now to make sure that we get to hear the report from the Data Management and Technology Committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thanks everybody. This might take a few minutes. First of all, I just want to thank Allison and her team, and in more particular, Jason Muraki for his leadership in getting us to where we are today. There's a lot of work that's been done in the last few months. So here's my report. Here's my report for the Data Management and Technology Committee. Last meeting, I had reported that for our HireNet Hawaii system, Geographic Solutions was working to launch their virtual one-stop Sapphire update. So I'm happy to report now that Graphic Solutions has successfully completed the Sapphire update, featuring a redesigned interface, new skill matching tools, enhanced resume builder functions, and improved security and case management services for staff, job seekers, and employers. There's also a new reCAPTCHA security feature added to assist in detecting any suspicious activity into the system. So when logging in, the system will allow for a maximum of 5 failed logins before the account is placed into lockout. Unfortunately, WDC and WDD received feedback from the AJC staff about the confusing layout of reCAPTCHA. Therefore, the reCAPTCHA layout was adjusted to avoid confusion for all systems users. So that's been addressed. The use of the remote signature functionality feature in HireNet has been extended to June 30th of 2021 to help people maintain the recommended social distancing protocols. The social security number, a required field, is being worked on currently, which led to a substantial amount of duplicated records in the system. So this will be addressed. The social security number also will satisfy the US DOL performance measures. WDC staff will continue to do a brief overview of the updated features to the local board, executive directors, and AJC staff. Regarding HireNet Hawaii training, WDC staff has trained the Hale'opio Kauai youth provider twice this past year because of some staff changes. There's also been some training with the Office of Economic Development on the County of Kauai in December, and a planned training update with Goodwill Hawaii in the County of Hawaii. WDC will just continue providing ongoing HireNet technical assistance to all AJCs requested during 2020. Moving to the Hawaii is Hiring website. In June 2020, the committee assisted Upspring Digital with the development of the Hawaii is Hiring website. Hawaii is Hiring is a one-stop online resource that connects local residents to job opportunities, training programs, and career navigation in the state. This partnership provides job seekers with a job search option linked to the HireNet Hawaii job board. Moving to Maui County Virtual Job Fair website. In July of 2020, the committee assisted the web developer for the Maui County Virtual Job Fair website with similar tasks as the Hawaii is Hiring website. Job seekers are able to search through HireNet Hawaii Maui County job postings through the site. And lastly, I want to report on the collaboration with the UHCTE and P20 Partnership for Education. Myself, Allison, and Jason Muraki met this past Tuesday with Bernadette Howard from UHCTE and Stephen Schatz from P20 Partnership for Education. There's a proposal to merge the Perkins Act subcommittees into the WDC Data Management and Technology Committee. But to give you some background, I just want to thank Bernadette for putting together a comprehensive proposal outlining some of the issues with this concept. So both the state WIOA plan and the state Perkins plan establish committees and subcommittees to align the functions of their agencies, partners, and stakeholders in order to fulfill their responsibilities for oversight, governance, and implementation of Hawaii's workforce development and career pathway strategies. And the state has determined that it can reduce duplication and improve efficiencies by merging and aligning certain existing committees within the WIOA and CT Perkins plans. And that was the genesis of our meeting. So in our preliminary discussions, basically it resulted in exploring other possible synergies between WDC's Performance and Measures and Accountability Committee with CTE's Quality Assurance and Continuous Improvement Committee. So in that discussion, and Bernadette, please jump in if I've missed anything, or I don't want to make sure I'm not misrepresenting anything. But based on that discussion, we had a lively discussion, and Bernadette will now update the proposal to take a look at that, and we'll include and invite Brian Lee into that discussion to see what we can do to partner and collaborate to make things easier and more efficient for everyone involved. Bernadette, I'll leave it open to you if you'd like to jump in at this point.
You expressed it very well. Thank you, Jason. Yes, we're always looking for ways to be more efficient and to reduce any duplication. And we think after 2.5 years of watching this system work, that we found one way to do that. So we will continue to pursue merging committees, subcommittees of the two entities, and we'll report back at the next meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Jason and Allison.
So to close, I just want to thank Bernadette again for that willingness and flexibility to look at addressing the plan to make it a little, to find more synergies, I guess, among all the processes, because there is a number of interrelationships between the committees and potential reduction of redundancy. So thank you, Chair. That's my report.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Much appreciated. Any questions for Jason or Bernadette at this time? Hearing none, I'm going to swing back in. Is Glenn on? Glenn Kanashiga on? I think this.
Yeah, Chair, I am.
Yay, welcome, Glenn.
Okay.
I can, thank you. I know that you have a tight time schedule today, so it's time for your report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the Employer Engagement Committee met on January 22nd. And during that meeting, the entire committee got to review the videos that the subcommittee composed of Cheryl Cross, Jason Ito, Lois Hamaguchi, and Erin Yagi worked with Kinetic Productions on the videos for the services of the American Job Centers, or the AGC. And there are also, there's one long video, and then there are also shorter video clips for each county that were shown. So at this time, I think we're gonna be able to show the long video. I think it's ready to be shown, right?
Yes.
So why don't we go ahead, Allison, and run the video for the board.
Okay, thank you.
I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. In July of 2013, I finally left my marriage of 20 years. I had only 2 suitcases and my 3 kids. I decided to go back to Leeward Community College in Waianae. I heard about American Job Center, and so I went in there to see how they could help me.
The American Job Centers Hawaii, through the federally funded Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, can help underemployed and unemployed individuals with access to training, with access to education. We can help with tuition assistance, as well as the purchase of books.
2017, I graduated. I acquired my electrical engineering degree. The agency actually really helped me to complete my resume and to get it onto HireNet Hawaii.
HireNet Hawaii not only helps individuals search for jobs, but also provides a resource for unemployment, financial services, and for information on workplace training.
So today, I work for an electrical contractor. My family and I were doing wonderful.
The various programs funded through the federal government are making a positive impact in Hawaii through the American Job Centers located in each of the 4 counties.
In high school, I was often bullied, so I had dropped out in 10th grade. I was homeless. My family was low income. Through a partnership with the American Job Center Hawaii and the Goodwill Industries of Hawaii's Olikahana program, I was able to earn my competency-based diploma and go through workforce training. They had taught me life skills. I didn't know how to write checks, how to find employment, whether it be resumes, and I didn't have much self-confidence.
He came in as a work experience student.
Today, I have a full-time job with the County of Hawaii's Rapid Response Program, helping others who are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. For me, I enjoy the work I do. It's a joy for when I go out into the public and the community
I'm so proud of Kevin. He has come a long way from the kid who's being bullied to this young man who's just blossomed.
I worked for Hawaiian Commercial Sugar for 19 years. I was an engine mechanic. In 2016, Hawaiian Commercial Sugar closed its operations and I lost my job. I decided to change my career and I went to American Job Center on Maui for help.
Kelly took advantage of our Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act program, which is the Displaced Worker program.
So Kelly went to school online through the online program with UH West Oahu.
I graduated August 2020 in public administration.
They've continued now to help our members that have lost their jobs or been laid off due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They have been a very valuable resource for us.
If you have the desire to change your career after so many years, just do it. The resources are available to you. All you have to do is put in the work.
I was working for Kmart, and in 2018, we had a notice that we're going to be shutting down.
Cora came to the American Job Center seeking assistance in training.
I took Office of Continuing Education and Training at KCC. It helped me with business basics and computer skills.
We then provided Cora with the 6-month on-the-job training program.
And she was so awesome, and we picked her up, we hired her full-time. That program is so good, gave us opportunities to select the right person for the job. We trained her so good, the County of Kauai picked her up, and she's working for the County of Kauai.
It feels great. It's rewarding.
I grew up in Waipahu. I always liked to cook for my family.
One of the barriers to finding employment is having a disability. Chris joined the Work Hawaii Youth Program, which helps at-risk youth. Through our partnership with Windward Community College and the Disability Employment Initiative, we help pay for uniform, shoes, and a knife set for Chris. So Chris was able to earn a CertSafe certificate, which opened up a lot of possibilities.
We found Chris through the AJC. On a Friday, he completed his paid work experience program, and on a Monday, he was hired and started working for us as a regular full-time employee. The employees we've gotten from the AJC are a good fit for our programs.
AJC taught me how to be prepared. It feels great having a job.
The American Job Centers are a one-stop shop for job seekers and employers.
And it's a collaboration of local and state organizations
addressing the workforce needs of Hawaii.
Whether it be displaced workers,
youth or older workers,
formerly incarcerated or homeless persons,
and those with disabilities.
Our goal is to help job seekers look for employment and access training and education.
And the support to succeed in the workforce.
Thanks, Allison.
Very well done.
Yeah, as you can see, our employee engagement committee members felt that Kinetic Productions did a great job, very professional job for covering the services of the American Job Center. So with that, I'll give you updates on some of the other committee projects. On the Hawaii is Hiring 2.0 website, Keala Peters had reported that Hawaii is Hiring website is in phase 2. WDC had provided $30,000 to support enhancements such as translation in 7 languages. Links were added for the top 10 companies hiring right now, and an Instagram feed was added for real-time updates. Sector employer partnerships. Previous funding for the sector partnerships had ended on December 31st, 2020. WDC has contracted with SMS Consulting to work with the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii as a co-convener, project manager, and facilitator for the next 6 months. The initial focus is on the K-12 pathway project specific to engineering. The healthcare sector partnership will focus on social determinants of health in 2021. And the sector partnership is actively preparing a plan to look for partners and funding to continue seamlessly from July 1st, 2021. Regarding the UH Center for Nursing program, the WDC board had approved $54,969 in funding for the UH State Center for Nursing Residency Program Collaborative to help transition at least 75% of the hospitals to an evidence-based nursing residency program with preceptor training. The memorandum of agreement is moving through the UH administration approval process and will be executed once received by WDC by the end of, actually, we just got it. So other than that, at the last committee meeting, members of the committee shared how COVID has impacted their various or respective industries. So myself, as well as Jason Ito, Derek Kanahira, and Debbie Leong Yep, kind of shared our respective experiences in our industries of how we're faring through this COVID-19 environment. And that concludes my report, Chair.
Thank you, Glenn, very much. And again, congratulations on the video. I know that in our executive committee meeting, we had a chance to preview this. We got the premiere, I guess. And we are looking at wide distribution, as widely as we can use these materials. As Glenn mentioned, there are individual ones for the respective counties. So any other questions for Glenn? And again, we're taking recommendations of where these can be used and viewed. I see Kayla's on, so of course we're gonna want to put it on your website, and of course Linda Maui is hiring all the websites for sure. That's a given. Any questions for Glenn? All right, hearing none. Because of the fact that this is a busy time with a ledge session, I'm going to use my chair's prerogative again to change the agenda. And Wayne, thank you for your patience on your presentation. We have some voting board members and executive committee members that have to exit. So as noticed in our public agenda, we do have executive session on. Doris Devanch has joined us. Her prior case is over. Our counsel. The purpose of executive session as posted is to discuss Kauai County's Workforce Development Board and compliance. Only the voting members of the board will be going into executive session. We are in that session to discuss and consult with our Attorney General, who is Doris, on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities under Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 92-5A4. So that is the purpose. At this point in time, I'm going to entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Moved by Alan. Is that a second, Bernadette? Seconded by Bernadette. All in favor of moving in executive session, please just raise your hand. Any opposed? Unmute and say your name. Any abstentions? Unmute, say your name. So for the voting members, you should see in your bottom right-hand corner a blue button, or it's the middle of my screen today, that says join session. Please engage that now.
it to be said, they never proved this or they never proved that. Because my magnificent team of managers has stayed up night after night after night through weeks to compile all of the factual evidence, and we have put it before you. And we have put it before all of you in this public trial. Because we love our country that much. Mr. Nagus will show you that we've proven our case and that President Trump committed this impeachable offense that we impeached him for on January 13th. And that you should convict him. And when he's finished, I will return and explain why it's dangerous for us to ignore this and why you must convict. And then we will rest. Mr. Nagus.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, good afternoon again. As my colleague, Manager Raskin, mentioned, I know it's been long days, and I want to say thank you, that we're very grateful for your patience, for your attention, and the attention that you have paid to every one of our managers as they have presented our case. As Lead Manager Raskin mentioned, I hope, I trust, we agree that if a president incites a violent insurrection against our government, that's impeachable conduct. So what I'd like to do as we close our case is just walk you through why our evidence overwhelmingly establishes that President Trump committed that offense. Now, as you consider that question of whether the president incited an insurrection, there are three questions that reasonably come to mind. Was violence? Did he encourage violence? And did he act?
All right. I always miss this step, so I'm assuming in retro that Alan and made the motion to come out of executive session at 10:41, and Bernadette seconded said motion, since you are the ones who made the motions to go in, and that there was full concurrence that we were coming out of executive session. All right, thank you for that little retro motion to clean up the minutes. Thank you. So we will now return to our agenda as posted. And thank you. The whole purpose of the executive session was to confer with counsel, and that was done. And we questions by any of the board members were had the opportunity to confer with Doris DeBonge on that. All right, so next up is a presentation. Wayne, thank you so much for your patience, for hanging in there with us. Again, we always love to have you back at our meetings representing DBED. So just to set up Wayne's presentation, a couple of years ago while I was representing you at one of the National Governors Association meetings of state workforce board chairs, they talked about starting a pilot program focused on the on-demand economy, often known as the gig worker economy, the 1099, those that work on contract basis rather than full-time employment. I quickly raised my hand and volunteered WDC for that, knowing that even pre-COVID, there are lots of workers in Hawaii that were on a 1099 engagement with particular employers or businesses. So Wayne Leo has been our contributor to that. He's been an extraordinary contributor to the national project. They, I believe the words that were used by the then NGA official that led this was, Wayne's a rock star. So there you go, Wayne. There's your setup. And also, we're very pleased that, you know, Wayne was our former employment analyst. He's now an economist at DBED. and our director's designee, so we get to see him at these meetings. Also, Jean Osumi, is Jean with us? I hadn't seen her earlier, from P20, is here to present the final report. Jean, are you here? I don't see her. So Wayne, are you going to carry this? You're up. Thank you, Wayne.
Okay. So I guess I don't really have to introduce who I am or what the project was about too much with regards to the setup, but let's see here. Let's minimize this. Okay, so yeah, the National Governors Association the official title of the pilot project was the State Collaborative Consortium to Understand and Support the On-Demand Workforce. So what is the on-demand workforce? At its most basic, we're talking about a limited reliability in the work schedule. So the examples that Leslie gave with the gig workers, that's what we typically think about. We're talking about these Uber or Lyft drivers, independent contractors, maybe to a certain extent, people in the construction industry because they don't know project to project what they're going to work on. But it could also mean like temp workers at temp agencies. They work at one location for a little bit, but then after that little project is done, they don't know where they might be working next. But we're also talking about work schedule unreliability. So it could be looking at irregularly scheduled full or part-time workers, people who work in food services or retail, where they get the call like 2 hours before they're supposed to show up and say, hey, can you show up and do a shift? Most of the project did focus on these gig workers. When people talk about on-demand workforce, that's what people are worried about. But when the RFP for this project went out, it was intended to be this broad definition of limited reliability in the work schedule. So it was a consortium. It was intended to be partnerships interstate and intrastate. So you have these different states that were involved. The italicized ones are the states that were added on in a second round of RFPs. And then Alaska, they had a gubernatorial change and they were less involved in the second half of the project. And then within Hawaii, we had various departments and agencies involved. DLIR, you had WDC and RNS involved, DBED was involved, UH community colleges, Hawaii P20, a lot of people involved, all with different backgrounds, some with data research, some with policy, training, yeah. So what did the consortium do? The project was split into two halves. There's going to be a research half and then a policy half. So it started off with some research questions: what data is available, where are the gaps, and why are these gaps in data? And then how are people using the data that is available? And then if data is unavailable, how are people, quote unquote, generating data? Are they looking at other surveys? Are they creating surveys themselves? Are they looking at administrative data in a different way? And then a lot of this came down to how should we think about the definition of on-demand work? For the policy questions, how should we think about the definition of on-demand work? What policies are currently supporting or protecting workers, and how are states or agencies attempting to address these gaps? And you'll notice that this definition of on-demand is crucial to both the research, so we know what data to look for, and then also for the policy, so we know where these gaps are and how we can protect these different kinds of workers. So for deliverables, an ontology was developed. For those who don't know what an ontology is, for all intents and purposes, it's a definition. There were presentations from researchers to show like how they were using data or how they're generating data. And then some states did their own analysis, Hawaii included. And then for some policy deliverables, there are presentations from governments and agencies talking about some programs that they had to support workers. And then NGA created a website that was based on this gap analysis. So how did Hawaii contribute? We were active in the ontology development. We were active in the gap analysis. There's an analysis of a census survey. There had been some researchers who had done like a national analysis of this particular survey, but WDC did a state level, like this is what is happening in Hawaii analysis. And then we also created and distributed a gig worker survey on HireNet Hawaii. So for deliverables, this is the website for the ontology. It's got a nice, I guess it's a web looking thing where it shows how these different terms could be connected to each other, and then what type of research has been done on this particular aspect of the definition. The gap analysis has a website on NGA, which shows these different types of workers and these different programs or different benefits that either are available to certain types of workers or unavailable to certain types of workers. And then for the analysis of the census survey at the state level and the gig worker survey report, it's on the WDC website. And I believe this PowerPoint is either going to be up on the WDC website or it's already up there. So you don't have to like type it down to figure it out. You can just click the link when you get to the WDC website to get to this PowerPoint to click these links. So where do we go from here? The main thing we want to look at is building out the working group. So for as extensive as the backgrounds were for the people who did participate in the working group, it's still limited. There's other agencies that have plenty of data like DOTAX and DHS. There's policymakers who have a better idea as to how to frame these policies. There's going to be advocates and gig workers and employers who have more hands-on experience with what's happening in the gig economy. And then with this built out working group, there's going to be, there should be this emphasis on examining the data gaps and developing data sharing agreements. And then building on the previous research, such as further developing or distributing the survey, and then documenting and advocating for the policies. Since we've wrapped things up, we did work with SMS. Allison had a contact with SMS, and they were distributing another survey that was somewhat related, and we were able to tack on a question about like whether or not these respondents worked in the gig economy. And so we've got some brief results. We haven't really dove into it yet, but just going to show that even though the NGA consortium has ended, we're still slowly moving forward with some other aspects of this project. So if anybody has any questions, if it's a data question, then I suggest you ask Jean, who is a complete whiz when it comes to data sharing agreements.
Agreed. She is very seasoned at that. Did Jean join? I couldn't see her. I wanted to make sure I introduced her. I don't see. Oh, there she is.
Hi, Leslie. I'm here.
Thank you for joining us and your flexibility with our scheduling today to move the agenda around. I appreciate it. And thank you for your participation in this. Please, would you like to share any of your perspective on the project?
Well, I think one of the things, both nationally and locally, is that Hawaii was not alone in trying to find more quantitative information about gig economy workers. And I think what COVID actually showed us is that without this information, it's kind of a black hole for us, right? So the PUA database has been collecting data on those who've been applying for benefits. We are kind of looking at this as an opportunity for information. And I think this is why the working group is considering continuing this work. Right now, through the Hawaii Data Exchange Partnership, which has 5 of our state agencies involved, we are looking at, for example, the workforce outcomes of UH students and graduates, particularly around, for example, who survived in the COVID economy, who is recovering fastest. And I think these are the kinds of questions that we'd like to be able to answer for the state as a whole, which is why we're looking at maybe perhaps continuing with some different phases of work. But it does require a commitment on the part of the state and the agencies to consider sharing data for these purposes.
Excellent. I'm glad you're continuing the work because, you know, the one thing this did show is that we just need more information. It's an expanding part of the economy. Everything from, you know, temporary work when we did have a full visitor count economy, from, you know, banquets in a surge capacity to Boeing uses, you know, and I'm not sure if Ian does, but a lot of our tech companies use some surge work and engineering firms on a project when they need to scale up certain technical high skill work that they don't keep on full time. So it's the entire range, and how can we better account for that in our economy, and how can we better provide services and support who we have shown were the most vulnerable part of our population during the COVID situation. So this is critical work that couldn't come at a more absolutely critical time. So thank you. Any questions for Wayne or Jean? Yes, Maureen, you have your hand up, I think.
I do.
Yes.
Thank you. So when I read this on-demand economy survey, I wonder, Jean and Wayne, if the when it says they're working full-time in the gig economy, I'm assuming that's what that full-time represents. I'm just curious, are they also working in, you know, the part-time or full-time in another job that isn't gig economy? Was that part of the analysis? Because it just wasn't clear on that. Thank you.
So, in all honesty, I haven't looked at the report in a long time, but I think the question was just if they worked full-time or part. There wasn't any additional question beyond the did you work full-time or part-time. So we can't really do anything super complicated with the breakdown.
Okay. Yeah. I just know people that, you know, from our perspective, we have a lot of individuals who are working while we're paying for them to go to school. And some of them have, you know, part-time or full-time jobs, but they also do gig work as well. So just wanted to check in on that part of the survey. Thank you.
And then I see in the chat that Nalani asked about breakdown by county, and there is we did have a county, which county are you from in the survey, and in the SMS one as well. So there is county breakdown. The only thing is, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Nalani.
I just wanted to follow up with that. So the data sets, are they available to look at, or?
So the survey data, it probably should be cleaned up in the sense that the survey had this part where if they wanted to get assistance from the AJC, they could submit their email, and we would forward on those emails to the AJCs for them to contact for training. And for identification purposes, like I'd need to take that out. And then there are also people who would go on to HireNet multiple times, right? Because they were looking for the jobs. And so they'd actually go through the survey multiple times. And so I'd have to delete duplicates. But yeah, technically speaking, the data could be made available.
Thank you.
I think it's okay, but the data is like WC's data. So that's Allison.
I think what's important, I'm sorry, but I think what's important to mention, what's important to mention is that we were limited by the resources to gather information. So the survey that we had done was through the HireNet platform. So, and of course, people are there for for a reason other than to do a survey. But without being able to understand who is working, even to answer Maureen's question on how many jobs does a person actually have, while there was some information gathered, I think that's the question we all want to know, right? How many hours do you have to work in order to make it in this economy? And these are, in fact, the kinds of workforce questions where, as we're thinking about data sources, it's probably the quantitative data that shows who is in the unemployment insurance database, but also this new database that could potentially add or answer some questions as well.
Hi, Jean, this is Maureen, and that was where one of my follow-up questions was related to that. You know, is there a cross-check of these 730 respondents to that PUA, you know, resource of sole proprietors or independent contractors who are unemployed? And so that cross-check would be beneficial to understand as well. Thank you.
Exactly.
Great. Any other questions for Jean or Wayne? Well, I personally want to say thank you. And yes, I take full responsibility for like raising my hand and running up to Martin Simon at the time, say, please pick Hawaii, please pick Hawaii. Because I thought it was such an important gap to try to fill in our economy. So I know it's taken a lot of work. Obviously, you provided a lot of leadership to the national study. So thanks for representing us so well on the national level with your brilliance. And thank you for your commitment to continue to look at this research as important for economic development as well as workforce development. So thank you. All right. So I am going to move everyone back to the agenda, which we've changed a lot, to the executive committee report and recommendations. We have gotten through a lot of these, so this should go quickly. I just wanted to add on, it was noted that the executive committee voted to approve $50,000 for some civic internships. I think we would all agree that civic engagement and learning the political process and the civility in the political process is really important to pass that on to the next generation. And so these internships will be full-time in the state legislature, the governor and lieutenant governor's offices, the prosecutor and public defender offices. And the internships are competitive and scholarship based. And so the first amount that we approved is $50,000 to run the pilot. We expect some good evaluations and lessons learned to come from this internship so that we could attract other long-term sustainable funding for this civic engagement process. I just wanted to go on record of thanking our committees for your very, very engaged work. I'm so impressed with the level of activity. I really think the strength of an organization is the activity and robust work of its committees. So thank you. And our collaborations. I think that a real important role for WDC to be a nexus and a hub for collaboration with so many public and private entities. And boy, are we seeing that happen. We've already been through several of the committee reports. Jason Ito has reported for data management and technology. Glenn Konoshige has reported for the employer engagement committee. Shannon Okinaka has reported for finance. And Brian Lee has reported already for our performance measures and accountability committee. So I'm going to call on our interim chair, Alan Hayashi, also our vice chair, to report out on Military and Veterans Affairs Committee. And again, at the top of this meeting, you heard me thank our retiring chair of this, General Richardson, for his leadership of just actually starting. He was the catalyst for this committee.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Both the Spouse Subcommittee and the MVAC, Military Veterans Affairs Committee, met this week and discussed primarily the mission are we on point with the current mission statement? And I think the general consensus was yes. We'd like to also, the committee would like to also move on actionable items. So I'll work with Allison and staff to come up with a definition in that area, because I know we have to get approval from either XCOM or the board. But the other discussion centered around the spouses bill. There's several bills that are going through the ledge right now that involve leveling the playing field for spouses. And it includes the specific professional licensing and also teacher credentials. They're separated, there's separate bills, so they're not, it's not one omnibus bill. So teachers are being treated under a separate bill, but that legislation is moving. We had good support and insight from David Morihara, who's now servicing the MVAC committee. So we thank Allison and the staff for that support. But generally, we're moving along. We'll miss the general's vision and guidance, but he did say he'd stay, he joined the committee as his health permits. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take it. We are looking for a chairman. We prefer somebody out of the veterans rank, but that does not preclude anyone on the council from submitting their name. So if you are interested in chairing the veterans, military veterans committee, please send your name into either Allison or David, and we'll certainly review that. So I'll entertain any questions if there are. If none, that's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. All right, no questions for Alan. Again, thank you taking on this as interim leadership. We really appreciate it because you've been an active member of the committee since its inception. So thank you for the interim leadership. Next, I would love to hear from our Sector Strategies and Career Pathways Committee. I believe that Yvette Gibson was not able to join us because, as mentioned earlier, she's working on getting those vaccinations out to our community. But Bernadette Howard has been very active, stepping up as vice chair. So Bernadette, would you like to report for the Sector Strategies and Career Pathways Committee?
Sure, happy to do that. We had a committee meeting on January 22nd. We reported about the under-sector partnerships that, again, some of this is repetition, but that's an indication of the integration of our work. SMS Consulting has been contracted to provide facilitation and strategic planning for engineering and healthcare sector partnerships. They work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce. SMS will to build up these two particular pathways. The engineering sector partnership is using the pilot schools, Waipahu High School, Campbell High School, and Castle. Their target is to build a streamlined, connected, cradle-to-career STEM and engineering talent pipeline. We want to improve the pipeline for those kinds of fields in Hawaii. The healthcare sector partnership has an ambitious agenda for standardizing the method for capturing health data, a hub and spoke kind of a model to support health management and information sharing, requiring impact assessment for new projects, similar to the environmental impact statements that incorporate workforce development, telehealth, health plan financing, care coordinators, team-based care, and patient transitions. Under the, we've already referred today to the US DOE grant that the state, that the WDC and the community colleges partnered on. I just want to give you a few of the actual deliverables from that. The grant's going to develop pathways for in-demand, entry-level occupations that advance in skills, career, wages, and credentials and training. They will establish more apprenticeships as a means to learn and earn, and as well. So the target goal for the first year of short-term training is 300 students in healthcare, 300 in skilled trades, and 105 in the technology fields. And you'll recognize those are the things that align with the economic forecast and the fields that needed to grow in Hawaii. The apprenticeship goals in their first year is to include 75 in healthcare, 75 in skilled trades, and 25 in technology. So we're working together, hand in glove, community colleges and the Workforce Development Council to ensure that this moves forward. It is a 3-year grant. Lastly, the committee entertained a presentation from the Healthcare Association of Hawaii. They informed the committee that there's a bill before the legislature, Senate Bill 517, relating to healthcare workforce development, and it requires the WDC to implement and manage a public-private partnership that will develop and increase healthcare workforce in Hawaii. The committee, this Sector Strategy Career Pathway Committee, approved the support for that. We took it to the Executive Council, and the Executive Council has approved supporting that bill as it moves through the Senate and the rest of the legislature. If there's any questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, that's the report from this committee.
Great. Thank you, Bernadette. And it is great to see the integration of our work. That's very important. Any questions for Bernadette? All right, thank you very much. So at this point in time, I am pleased to welcome for the first time on our agenda, which will be returning.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Can you ask for the Youth Committee report, please?
Oh, first, all right. I'm sorry, Ian. I had it reversed order. Ian Kitajima, thank you so much. We welcome your report for the Youth Services Committee. Thanks. I know you've been very busy.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody. Good morning again. First, I'd like to actually thank Jeannie and the group and the WDC team that's supporting our youth committee. Again, we had a transition with Duke retiring, so we really appreciate all of the support. We couldn't do it without the great team that we have from the WDC, and I've also I have a fantastic co-chair in Winona Whitman. So Winona will probably jump in here as I give this report. She was at our last meeting. Unfortunately, I had something come up, and so it's great to have a co-chair who can step in and take over. So thank you, Winona. So we had our youth, our last meeting was actually just last month, January 19th, 2021. And as you may remember, but I will give you an update. We have 3 major areas the youth committee has focused on, and what's really nice is it's led by committee members. These are areas that they're very passionate about, and which also align to the areas that the youth committee is focused, is supposed to actually focus on. So the first area is trauma-informed assessments. The second one is work experience and transition. And the third one is entrepreneurial skills training. So these 3 areas are led by 3 different leaders and HUIs that we've put together. And they've been actually budgeted and funded for this coming work year. So the board approved the funding, and it is for statewide programs. And since these programs were to be carried out by the Oahu AJC, and since the Oahu Youth Program was actually underspent in the current budget, the Oahu team agreed to take over implementation oversight and fund the initiatives. Now, since then, the Oahu team has decided not to move forward with the work experience transition project, okay? And so this is through the AJCs. But the Oahu Workforce Development Board, the operator and the youth program, will work with our 2 other leaders and the 2 other subcommittees, the trauma-informed assessment and the entrepreneurial skills training program. So basically, we're going to kind of pause on the work experience transition, and we're going to kind of focus efforts on the trauma-informed and entrepreneurial skills training. And again, this is to comply with our WIOA youth program requirements. And that's, and then, you know, Winona was at our last meeting. So, so I'll kind of give Winona the floor for a minute here to give any updates from that meeting if I missed anything.
Great. Thank you, Ian. Winona?
Thank you, Ian. You covered everything in your report. I know that we do have a tentative meeting scheduled for March 16th for the Youth Services Committee meeting. So that's the update. Mahalo.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Any
Thank you,
questions
Chair.
for Ian or Winona? Okay.
A quick comment.
Yes, Allison.
I just wanted to add, thank you, Ian, for referencing OWDB. We just wanted to comment that both Danny Goya from the Trauma Informed Care and Stephen Su from Lemonade Alley from the entrepreneurship side, they were invited to give presentations at our last full board meeting in January. They were very well received. We're very excited about the projects, and we thank you for this opportunity to implement these programs on Oahu.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for receiving them and taking them. Yeah, they're very passionate about the work they're doing. And so we're really fortunate to have such passionate committee members. And what we've also tried to do too is the committees, the subcommittees are actually kind of we want to make sure people are like on co-committees in a way so that there is that kind of communication and interaction happening between these three different committees. So we're a little bit, we hope to bring back the work experience transition program when they're ready. And so, but thank you for receiving them.
Yes, we hope to have a report for you at a future committee meeting. We can let you know when we have some of our initial results.
Okay, great. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Now I will go into this introduction. So this is the first time we've been able to hear of this committee. It is a brand new committee. It is the Opportunities Population Subcommittee. And we're delighted that that's been formed. And we've invited today the two co-chairs of that, Evan Nakatsuka from Lanakila Pacific and Kala Peters from the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii to report. And I believe you have a PowerPoint presentation to share with us. Is that correct?
Yes,
Great.
I'm pulling it up now. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan and Kiala.
So thank you, Chair, for that introduction. Again, my name is Evan Nakatsuka, and I'm the co-chair along with Kiala Peters of this subcommittee under the Employer Engagement Committee. And so the purpose of our newly formed subcommittee is to ensure that opportunity populations or people with barriers to employment have optimal access to the American Job Center Hawaii Education and Workforce Services by tracking performance measures, identifying opportunities for improvement, and supporting efforts to affect positive change. We are supporting the AGC Hawaii operations by serving as a conduit between their program managers and WDC committees, and look to be an internal advocate for opportunity populations with the committees. Over the last quarter, we have reported not only to the Employer Engagement Committee, but also Performance Measures and Career Pathways and Sector Strategies Committee. When we last met in December, the membership of our committee has increased. We have a representation from the WDC, Alan Hayashi and Brian Tatsumura, as well as from the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, Allison Lee, Hawaii P20, Erin Yagi, and the Waipahu Community School for Adults, Dr. Christine Park. And we also are happy to have each AGC county represented on this committee. And they all presented at our last meeting about strengths and opportunities that each program has when supporting people with barriers to employment. And their feedback will help us to determine our subcommittee focus and identifying areas and work streams as we move forward. And this is just a summary of the various AGC county presentations that occurred at our last meeting in December. And from this meeting, a few themes emerged which Kiala will discuss.
Thank you, Evan.
And so as Evan has mentioned, this is a new committee, and we're really trying to identify how we can be of greatest service to our customers who are the AJC job seekers. And so our first step was to listen to our AJC program managers and just do some discovery. What's happening in each of our county AJCs? And Evan just shared with you sort of the strength and then what they consider to be their largest opportunity. And so after some analysis of that discovery process, it seems as though 4 themes are emerging that our AJCs could use some support with. The first is that we heard from many of our counties that they wish that there were more on-site partners co-located, and they all have reasons and issues and challenges as to why they're not on-site. But to truly be a one-stop operator, we do need to have these services co-located. So that's the first theme. The second theme emerging is some operational streamlining that could occur. We heard frequently from the counties that their job seekers have to repeatedly tell their story as they move along to different service providers or programs. We subsequently have heard that there is a front-end computer intake system that is being planned for each of the counties. So we expect that intake system will greatly improve the consumer experience as they move through the AJC. But we'll work with the program managers to see what other operational improvements they need our support with. The third theme emerging is increasing awareness of services among job seekers. And it's perfectly timed that the Employee Engagement Committee has produced that video that we just saw, because that tool is going to go a long way in achieving our third emerging theme. And then the fourth is that our program managers really felt the need for there to be a common elevator speech, a common way to speak about the AJC's value proposition among the different counties. And again, the employee engagement video that we saw is really going to help give everybody that common language. And so next slide. So where do we go from there? Now that we've identified some of the emerging themes of where the AJCs need our committee's support, Evan and I and the committee are spending time just learning about national best practices for AJCs, as well as some of the WIOA requirements, so that we can make sure that our counties are meeting the WIOA requirements. And we also want to lean on Dr. Kim Payton's report that was done in 2018 and make sure that we're looking at that framework plan and that those recommendations are implemented at each of the counties. And then third, we think that we can develop a dual path action plan. And so final slide. What might that dual path action plan look like for our committee? Number one, we're going to bucket some of our activities in a optimizing operations path. And then secondly, an increasing awareness path. And so some of the things I've just gone through, our subcommittee will begin to develop an action plan around. And again, as I mentioned, there are reasons why, for instance, some of their service providers aren't located. And so how can we support them with chipping away at some of those barriers? So we have our work cut out for us. We are very pleased to be working closely with the AJC program managers and have them on our committee, because they know best as to what the opportunities are. The last thing I'll say is that we will also be data driven. And so thanks to Jason at the WDC, there's a wealth of data that we can access in terms of the various opportunity populations that we're serving. And so as we look at the different segments of job seekers, are we reaching the right job seekers? Is there more we should do in the way of outreach to get to certain populations? So that's where we think our focus is. We're excited to be able to dive into this work, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to report to you today. Happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Just a reminder that the Title I population is our first and foremost tasking for this body. So this is a really important addition, this work, to help us do our work. So thank you so much for that great presentation and for putting together a very important agenda for the committee's work. Any questions for Evan or Kayla? All right, hearing none, thank you very much for your report, and we look forward to future reports. So it has been a very, very busy time at WDC since we last met as what seemed like ages ago in November of 2020. Thank you, Allison, for your leadership and all the work that you've been giving during this very challenging time and the important role that WDC is playing. So we'd love to hear your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and aloha, everyone. Good to see everyone. Just briefly, next slide. Yeah, so next. I wanted to just give you a brief overview of the legislative session that's going on now till April 29th as it relates to WDC. So it's already been mentioned that we do have a couple bills, but the one in particular that is directly for our council is Senate Bill 1270 and House Bill 1198. And what this bill does is basically a housekeeping bill to our chapter 202. It adds the administrator of the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation as a standalone ex officio voting member, replacing the director of the Department of Human Services. And this has been asked of us by the feds in order for our chapter to comply more clearly with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and in specific for vocational rehabilitation. And so it does not change the number of members. It just merely changes the representation, that it be clear that it be a Title IV Division of Vocational Rehabilitation represented on our board. And Maureen Bates does represent us now for the Department of Human Services. That bill was actually heard on February 5th, and it did pass out of the Senate Labor Joint Committee with the Human Services Committee as is. Now it needs to be heard in the Senate Judiciary Committee. There is the HB 1198 is the companion bill. It's identical to Senate Bill 1270. So the House Labor Committee staff has actually contacted WDC requesting information. They want more details on the composition of the board, how that number was arrived at, and they're looking at possibly reducing the number. We have provided them, you know, we are 41 members. We're one of the largest boards and commissions in the state. We have provided them the information. So I just wanted to give the council a heads up on that. As of today, the House bill has not been scheduled for a hearing. Bernadette had mentioned the SB 517 relating to the healthcare workforce development, which clearly states that WDC implement and manage this private-public partnership that increases healthcare workforce in Hawaii. And there is appropriation funding attached if there is enough funding at the end of this legislative session. Hearing has not been set on that. And then we will be active. We will be going back to the Senate Labor Committee for our governor's appointments. And congratulations to Ian Kitajima, Brian Lee, Brian Tatsumura, and Chuck Shima. They have been reappointed to another term, and they will have to go through a confirmation before the Senate Labor. And of course, there are 5 new appointees that are actually here at our meeting today. So we're off to a really good start with them. And honestly, they have been on board for some time waiting for their appointments. So like Jason Bradshaw in particular has been waiting a long time. So is Carrie Miyashiro. So thank you very much for your patience. We look forward to working with you. Also, Alan had already mentioned about the military dependence bill. So that is going through and we have expressed support for that. Also want to mention, as it relates to our workforce resiliency initiative and digital readiness for our state, there are like tons of broadband bills that's going through. They want to establish a broadband and digital equity office within DBID, another to create a broadband infrastructure grant program. Another one establishes a broadband office within the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. So all three of these bills have been heard and they've passed out of their committee. So that's going through. All that is good. It connects with the work that we need to do as far as making, training basic computer skills to the residents who want to be employed. I just want to also share,
I just wanted to add to that. There's a big piece of that is digital equity and access. And the WDC did sign on to a digital declaration that came out early as the outcome of the broadband hui, of which Allison represented us very well on that, and our team members. So we were very pleased to have WDC sign onto the declaration, which was the precursor to legislation being introduced.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And actually now Ka'ala Souza has been attending regularly those meetings more than I. So I got to thank Ka'ala for that very much so. Also, just one more piece I want to share as far as legislation that we're just monitoring is a whole lot of board members, boards and commissions, sunshine law, anything to do with open meeting laws right now. They're looking at setting policy for virtual meetings and looking at safety, especially during state of emergency due to a contagious illness. So that's a big discussion going on that will affect us in how we conduct our meetings. So just to make you aware of that. Next slide. I wanted to share with you, Finance Chair Shannon Okinaka mentioned about the funding that needs to be expended by June 30th, 2021, and that the projects that 1.6 million that we're hoping to spend by that period, that has just put us in overload, right? So that the funds were not used within the first 2 years, right, by the local areas. So in the third year, the federal contract, we have to recapture the funds and it must be used for statewide activities. So then it falls back on WDC to identify projects, issue RFPs, draft contracts, MOUs, and make it happen. And it's usually within a very short period of time. And it's like 6 months. And so just letting you know, we're working on 16 projects, which are either already completed, contracts, MOUs have been executed, other contracts, MOUs are pending signatures to finalize, and still drafting RFPs to issue for procurement. We have issued more RFPs and contracts than over the 5.5 years that we have been under WIOA. So I just wanted to give you a glimpse at the contracts that have been executed. The video production was one, the statewide customer service survey, the Hawaii's hiring website that with the chamber, the sector employer partnership with SMS research or consulting, and the UH Center for Nursing Programs. Those are all executed. We also helped with some kind of Gardner training with our EDPSO that helps our whole HireNet system. The RFPs that we have already issued and we're be in the process of procuring to select a vendor have to do with the evaluation of training providers, the statewide digital literacy survey, our workforce resiliency initiative program manager, as well as a project evaluation. And now we're just waiting for pending contracts and MOUs with UH Community College for computer trainers. And that's part of the workforce resiliency initiative, as well as what was mentioned earlier about the UH political science internships that came out of was approved by the executive committee. Pending RFPs that still need to be written, Hopefully they will. Time is ticking away. Evaluation of service providers, our statewide public education awareness plan, and also, now I'm sorry, that evaluation, project evaluation is in 2 places. So it's actually still need to be written. So I need to take it off from pending. So that's just an overview, a glimpse. It has taken a lot of time to do this, away from our other work, but we're happy to do it because it presents so many opportunities and so many more opportunities for partnerships and collaboration. So we'll look at it that way from that perspective. Next slide. And talking about partnerships and collaborations, did want to share that we did issue in 2020 10 policies and procedures. They're called our WIOA bulletins. They really help the counties, workforce development boards, and our WIOA partners provide guidance. In addition to, we have partnered and we're working with the Workforce Development Division. We are now issuing joint WIOA bulletins as it relates to HireNet Hawaii, and we have issued 3 policies already. Another partnership, we've working with DBED on the remote worker programs. One is Instant Teams, Flex Jobs. Ka'ala may mention more about that in his report coming up, but do want to share that the Instant Teams program is working with DBED, DLIR, which includes WDC and WDD and the American Job Centers. So I think that this is really exciting, and that they are issuing and I think they have issued the official announcement today. And so I think the press release has gone out. I'll be happy to share that with all of you. I'll email that out to you. But basically, it provides Hawaii residents who are unemployed the opportunity to be trained as a remote business development rep or remote customer service professional in a paid internship program, and also have job placement assistance. But the applicants will be going through the American Job Centers to be processed for enrollment. So I think that's a great part. This is a pilot program. Again, it's going to be launched next week, Tuesday, February 16th, since Monday's a state holiday. And again, that official announcement has gone out at 11, I was told earlier today. So, and then the other is that we have the governor, John Chin from the governor's office had mentioned we're working with them as well as Department of Human Services and ETS on the National Governors Association Technical Assistance and funding grant, funding possibly for technical assistance up to $100,000. The grant will be submitted today, so hopefully we'll hear back. And then lastly, we are working with the UH Career and Technical Education, Bernadette's team, and that is to update our 2020 public funds and workforce development programs in Hawaii. That's this. I don't know if you remember. You're not going to be able to see this on this, but so that captures all the state and federal funding that comes in and expenditures that have programs related to workforce development. So we're working on that and hoping to get that out in the coming months. The Workforce Resiliency Initiative program led by Ka'ala is going great guns. He is everywhere and talking to so many people. He will have exciting updates for you after my report. So I'm excited about that and thankful. And lastly, I do have much appreciation to the WDC team, the board members, the committees that are ramping up and being very active, as well as our WIOA partners. But our team, the staff's workload has tripled. And so I really want to give kudos and appreciation for them for stepping up. And we are actively recruiting for the 2 positions we have vacant. So thank you.
Yay, I think that deserves a round of applause from all of us. Wow. Thank you for your impressive work, and thank you to the great team. that all collaborates to get this done. So as the intro that Allison gave you, Kaala, the Workforce Resiliency Initiative really, really is impressive. I think it captures all our hearts for this, and you have certainly made it your labor of love, and we're very appreciative of all that you put into it, Kaala. So please update us on our statewide digital readiness program. And before I forget, we want to be on your calendar for the Maui County Workforce Board at one of our next meetings. We would love for you to present on the Resiliency Initiative.
You're talking to me. Oh, good. Yes. 100%. Any opportunity to talk, not just because I'm Susan, but Chair Leslie, thank you very much for the opportunity. You mentioned earlier the Digital Equity Declaration, which is a big giant push for broadband access for all, and that's going to be access, literacy, and livelihood is the tricky little acronym there. But the idea here that where Workforce Resiliency Initiative fits in is, if you can remember the Encyclopedia Britannica. Anybody had those sets before? I did. And the broadband access into the households, into businesses, is that access to that sort of encyclopedia of knowledge. And our Workforce Resiliency Initiative is going to help people to read that encyclopedia, basically, digitally. So that's where we are. I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Hiki noa ika olelo i li'i. I can speak a Hawaiian a little bit, and I'm just trying to follow what Kaika Hele has been encouraging us to do this month of February, to speak a little bit more Hawaiian. So that's my best effort. About a month ago, somebody had a friend of mine who was talking about the Workforce Resiliency Initiative with me, and I was explaining what we're doing in digital upskilling and trying to elevate our readiness in our workforce population. And I said something like this, which I think is kind of typical sometimes for people in Hawaii, which was, hey, I don't want to be all competitive, and it was sort of like in our culture, we don't want to push ourselves forward and don't want to step ahead in line or anything. And then he looked at me and he said, and he kind of gently rebuked me and chastised me. And he says, Kaala, you have to compete. Hawaii must compete. And it really got me thinking. Right now, the entire world has been knocked down by this pandemic. Everybody is down. There is nobody who has escaped the impact of COVID-19 in our world. And it's a challenge for us in Hawaii to step up and to stand back up. And the idea here is that I don't think that we want Hawaii to be standing up last. We have to be able to take this opportunity, take this knockdown as an opportunity for us to get into this fight and to stand up and compete as quickly as possible. And again, this kind of goes a little bit against my upbringing, but I want to compete for this. Everybody's down, we need to get up. And one of the challenges for us here in Hawaii is that we've never had to compete without home court advantage. If you look at visitor industry, our tourism industry, who's going to compete with Diamond Head? So with the idea of the very, very vulnerable visitor industry, now we're going to have to say that is not one of those competitive advantages. We have to compete with the rest of the world. And if 40% of the jobs that were lost because of COVID-19 are not coming back nationwide, what is everybody else going to do? They're going to be upskilling. They're going to be looking at remote work. Allison talked about our remote work initiatives with DBED. Everybody's looking at remote work. And so the focus, the spotlight on that is going to require a highly competitive workforce. That is what we're trying to do. Everybody's doing this. AT&T is committed to spend $1 billion a couple of years ago, before COVID-19, on 200,000 workers in their workforce, recognizing that they're not ready for the digital demands that are going to be placed on them in the future. Amazon is spending $700 million for 100,000 people. Everybody's upskilling. So it's a private-public partnership that we need to compete with here. And the idea for us as we get into this in my presentation is just want to share with you real briefly on what the workforce resiliency has transitioned into. It's like we start with an idea and then it changes. But I want to share this with you guys and give you an idea after that of where we are currently. So let me just go to this here. And this is really my aspiration, our aspiration in the WDC for where we want this workforce resiliency initiative to end up. We want to be the leader in digital readiness. And so it even makes me uncomfortable saying this, but we as Hawaii is what I'm saying, and we're competing nationwide. And digital readiness includes this idea of digital competencies and literacy, usage. We're ready to go and to learn and to go back maybe 200 years ago, the things that we've talked about before. But that's the dream here. All right. So basically, our plan is 3 steps. We recognize that there is a little bit of a motivation and inspiration for our workforce, our culture, to recognize that we no longer have home court advantage. If you look at Max Holloway, he's never fought at home ever before. He's always fighting outside. And that's what's going to have to happen for us. And so we're going to need to get people ready to learn and to learn online. And then, as Allison mentioned, we're looking at equipping people with the basics. We have an idea of how many people we're talking about here, but we're going to have more data as soon as we get a digital literacy assessment into the field. But the basics are things like left click, right click, double click. And it sounds like something for all of you who are on this call right now that seems like it's so intuitive. But I talked to a guy who was a computer professor in the continental US, and he told me that he was teaching basic computer skills to somebody in college. And the person had moved their mouse down to the edge of the table and then raised his hand and asked the instructor, how do I move the mouse further down the page on the screen when I've run out of desk space? And that is not ignorant. I mean, it's not unintelligent, it's just ignorant. And so we're talking about basic skills for people. An instructor, a professor I was speaking with last week from the UH Hilo had told me that how shocked she was to see people coming who don't know how to left click, right click, attach a file. And so if our workforce can't do this, we're out. We don't even show up into the ring. We're not in the game. We have to get these basics, but it doesn't stop there. It's not just the basics. The basics just get you onto the field or into the ring, if I don't want to change metaphors here, to continue to learn online. And so really the idea is to get people as quickly as possible out of in-person computer training and to be able to learn things and continue to learn what they need to learn to be able to flex and adapt as they go through this. And so we're working with for the basic computer training in person. This is what this is. These are 3-hour classes. They're going to be, this is some of our partners and people that we're working with. We're actually going to be doing the brunt of the work here. American Job Centers are, again, central to a lot of our efforts in communicating with the communities around us. But as much as we can, we're going to be able to access computers in their they're providing a ceiling, 4 walls, internet connectivity, and computers. The state libraries, Stacy Aldrich, the head librarian, is also a part of this. They have 51 locations around the state. The UH community colleges that Allison referenced earlier in our MOA is providing instructors for us. We're talking to the adult education programs here in Hawaii, Waipahu, McKinley, who are just fantastic. And so there's, as we go through this is just in person, 3 hours. The goal is, it came down from 9 hours. It used to, in my mind, I'm like, hey, let's get 9 hours. We can train people, all these things. But really the ultimate goal here for us is to get people out the door with skills, yes, but more confidence to be able to access continued training online and help guide them down this and maybe shepherd them down this path to continued learning. So that's kind of the idea, the upskilling, the online learning, higher level trainings, what we're looking at here. One of our partners in curriculum is providing the curriculum, North Star Digital Literacy. We're talking to Microsoft people who are looking at their Microsoft Skills Initiative, also LinkedIn Learning. Coursera is one of those things, and only because at this point in Hawaii, we don't really have our own curriculum, so to speak, to be able to provide online. But ultimately, the dream would be to keep, make our own, basically, LinkedIn Learning. Design Think, we have crazy smart people here in Hawaii who are legit Design Think people. That's a problem source, open source framework of problem solving. And Ian Kitajima, we've already heard from him on our board here. And Oceanet, we're trying to figure out how to get people in Hawaii to think Design Think way. So we have assessments coming up, all kinds of things happening. These are essentially the goals. And before, when you look at the right-hand side of this, and people have said this many, many times, that once you put down a number like 100%, then it's just not a good thing. I cannot help but put down, we want our workforce to be 100% digitally ready. We can't do 90, so I'll take the blame for this, but we want everybody in our workforce, 650,000 people, to be digitally ready to learn, to work, succeed, to be able to continue to learn. Of that, we're thinking right now, until we get better data in April, May, that 200,000 people might have to get upskilled in some basic level of computer skills. Then we want to be able to transition 120,000 people to the online learning. And then this one of the more challenging but aspirational ideas here is to get 100,000 people at least be aware of where this problem-solving methodology. Alvin Toffler's comment on literacy, basically the literate of our day and age are those who can learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so that's what we're looking at from this area. When we start talking about where we are now and all of this kind of things, the idea for us here is going to be, let me give you like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on where we are. And if anybody wants to talk more about this, I'd love to. But number one, first of all, we are looking at an April launch for this basic digital literacy upskilling, right? So we're gonna have 3-hour in-person classes around the state in libraries, community centers, American Job Centers, as much as we can find places where people are going to be. That's April through June. So our MOA with the UH Community College is gonna go April through June. And we're looking, I mean, we're gonna take anywhere between 3 and 10 people at a time per class. And we have enough instructors to try and reach 2,000 people. I'm putting that number out. I'm afraid of that number, but we're looking at an April launch. It's a pilot program. WDC is funding that right now, and we need to figure out how to continue to do that for the other 95,000 people. Secondly, we already talked about this. This is happening as we speak, where the holdup is me. We're trying to finalize locations and curriculum. Just this morning, we got a contract from our, speaking of curriculum, the contractor that we're working with from Minnesota, North Star Digital Literacy. Stacy Aldrich and the state libraries are gonna be paying for this. And it's $30,000 for access for the digital literacy assessment, number one, and the actual curriculum. So the reason we're working with them is because they have crazy smart PhD people who are familiar with the international standards of digital literacy, and they've created an assessment, and they have an easy to use curriculum. $30,000 there, another $30,000, so for a total of $60,000 for our contract with North Star is going to include, hopefully, a feature that we have requested. And this is, we're first on this, okay? So I wanna highlight this. We're requesting the ability for our locations who are using this to be able to tag participants and report out on those tags. In other words, we'd have people in Hawaiian Airlines who take this digital literacy assessment, and we can provide a report for companies. We can provide a report for libraries. We can provide a report for communities based on these tags. And so we're trying to customize their system based on that need for us to provide that more specific and detailed scope of results, really. And so also just out, we put out the RFP for the digital literacy readiness survey. This is going to be tracking, when we talk about digital literacy, it's very ambiguous. Readiness is a better term for me, but readiness includes digital literacy, it includes usage, and it includes the ability to learn online. And so that is going to give us a very top level rate of digital literacy for us to be able to say, here in Hawaii, we are at this % of digital literacy, digital readiness. It's going to be hard for us to compare nationally because at this point, I've not found any other states who are doing this, who are, unless they're not sharing their information. But it's going, I think, to move more states to be able to get there so that we can participate. And as we're competing, I'm not trying to put anybody down. We can lift other people up as we go. And I think this is the way to do this so we can get our the entire country and our economy elevated. Fifthly, we're looking to, again, I mentioned this earlier, one of the challenges is finding locations. We do have walls, we have buildings, we have ceilings, we have computers. The challenge, and one of the asks I will present to you as a request for help, is providing some assistance in identifying locations and where we should host these April through June pilot launches. And so some of them will be static, in other words, at the community college or at an American Job Center, and some of them will be in various communities. HANA has requested some specific training for them, so very excited to go out there. My auntie lives there, so I'm probably gonna fly out there and do that training myself just so I can say hi on a weekend. On a Sunday, but we need people, not so much the location or the space, but if you guys are aware of names, and I'll clarify this later, of people who are going to be excited about this type of thing, who can bring people through the door. We're also working with Hawaii Literacy to try and vet volunteers. There's people, even, I don't know if you guys have heard of Movers and Shaka, probably have Movers and Shakas, which has been pretty exciting for people to watch. There's a lot of people who are already in Hawaii who are experts at all kinds of different digital things, and some of them have volunteered to help. And so we're going to try and figure out how Hawaii Literacy can be involved in that and get us going further. I thought I only had 6, but I realized that I didn't, so I had to add this on later. We're doing, I mentioned that we're starting the pilot program in April. We were presenting to several of our legislators, and Representative Ichiyama had said, why can't we start earlier? And I go, well, we don't have the curriculum, we don't have this and this and that. And she says, well, I want to start earlier. And I said, okay. And Allison said, okay. So we're going to start starting the pre-pilot at a library in Salt Lake, who is going to, at the end of March, the last 2 weeks of March, we're going to do it, I think it's on a Saturday, a 3-hour course there. It is going to be the pilot to the pilot. Representative Ichiyama is, sending emails like, what's going on? How's everything going? And I appreciate her cracking the whip. Senator Glenn Wakai, I didn't even know this is also his area. He's also involved in this, and they're going to be helping to get the word out. So that is, and I had one more thing to add on this, sorry, that I forgot about. Let me see if I can get to that. The remote work, I think Allison had alluded to already, the things with DBED. The American Job Centers are right core smack dab in the middle of the governor's state of the state when he said digital about 1,000 times. Digital economy, digital economy. The remote work is all being funneled right now through the American Job Centers. And so they're emailing, their constituents, people trying to, getting applicants for the Instant Teams program that Allison referred to earlier. Flex job licenses, finding online 100% remote work is also coming through them. And so we're pretty central right now. We have, again, funding is an issue. All of the legislators we talked to said, love to speak to you. And if you have any good ideas for policy, great. If you have requests for money, this is the wrong time. This is the wrong year. 100%. Yeah. So, but we are speaking, trying to set up appointments with some of our congressional ohana. We are meeting tomorrow with Representative Case and have just a brief time to present a request for funding. And full funding is going to mean more locations. Ideally, it would also mean hardware, computers, more instructors, and more seats in the online learning resources that we have. These are the things I'd like to ask of you. And I appreciate, by the way, the ideas that are coming in the chat. Jason, Palama Settlement, if that's a location, I'd love to do this. We're talking with KPT as well, and they already have some computer places there. I had a meeting yesterday, actually with Evan and a couple of other people from people who work, organizations who work with a disabled population. And I apologize. I wish that I had this live streaming subtitles on my presentation here. So Evan, great big shout out to that. I didn't realize how challenging doing workforce development training, doing digital literacy training for people with disabilities is. Maureen had suggested that I watch the Employables. I've been watching that every night, Maureen, and it's blowing my mind. This is a giant, huge, big challenge. So that's happening. We're trying to get more funding for that. Here's my request for help from you guys. Number one, when we get this assessment from North Star Digital Literacy Assessment, I would love to get all of your companies, organizations, in the private sector, public sector, whatever it is, to get your team, your employees to take this digital literacy assessment. It's going to give us more detailed numbers. And it also is a great tool for you to identify who in your organization may need to go through some training. So we're going to have this phone survey, and I know it sounds weird, we're going to do a phone survey for a computer digital literacy assessment, but we're also going to have this one over here. People are going to sit down at a computer and take an assessment of their computer skills. So we're just trying to get people ready, ma kaukau. We want a digitally ma kaukau workforce. The other thing here is that if you have any locations that you are interested or about, and again, not just the building, I would need people who are going to be able to help champion and shepherd you know, they're the people that they know through this. One group, for example, Po'uhunua o Waimanalo, Bumpy County Hele's Place, they have about 100 people. They have computers, they have hardware, they have internet connection, and we're setting up some training there and do some train the trainer for their population. The third thing, and this might be fun or not for you guys, but I want to ask you who are on our board, our stakeholders. I'm going to ask many. I've asked some of you already to participate in some online webinars, and this is going to be part of the way that we can get people aware of some of the need for what's happening in the world of work and the future of work. But I would like to do some live interviews with you. We can do, it's almost like a podcast, but we're going to send them to our WDC YouTube page. I think that's about it. I'm trying to rush through this. I would love to talk again further with anybody. If you have any questions and we have any time, Chair Leslie, I would entertain any kind of questions that we may have. So thank you for this opportunity to present this to you. And if I could just one last thing, you know, we're not trying to teach or upskill digital literacy. This is not the goal. That is just the process, the path to the outcome that we're looking for. And really what we're trying to communicate is that we want people to be able to live the dream, which is the Hawaii dream of being able to stay home. That's it. So, you know, we want people to not be afraid of having to leave Hawaii because they can't find a job. And so our efforts here are to provide opportunities through learning, continuing to learn. We need a culture that's going to be able to learn and how to learn. So that there's no fear of that. We can find work, we can find employment, we can find income, cash flow through these digital opportunities. And that's the dream. That's what we're communicating. It just so happens that the computer skills are the path to that. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kaala, so much for your passion and commitment for this. I'm so excited that we have pre-pilots and pilots coming up just around the corner. Super exciting. And, you know, we've long thought that the way to mitigate exporting our youth, our talent, our culture is to be able to create their skills and align them with employers that may not physically be here, but need their skills so that we can keep them at home and yet they have unlimited employment potential. I think that's one of the greatest opportunities here. And thank you for giving us a roadmap. Any questions for Kaala? Yes, Maureen.
Sorry to be the question lady today, but Kaala, thank you so much for what you're doing and reaching out to our teams to really look at the opportunities population. My question pertains to the assessment and digital literacy regarding security, because of security of information and resources. And so does the literacy include that element because of people's vulnerability with, you know, interfacing with people all over the world? Thank you.
Maureen, sorry, if I understand your question, is the digital literacy assessment itself secure, or does the curriculum include digital security?
It includes the understanding of security and how to ensure that you're speaking with who you're speaking with, or you're sharing information with the right people, and how do you screen that out as a digital literacy skill? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, when we look at what the topics are for our initial basic in-person computer training, we're trying to figure out what belongs there. And we know for sure what you just said it's probably one of the most requested topics that people need right after being able to have a Zoom meeting. You know, it's you know, how do you stay safe online, not just your information, but your mind. So we are going to include that in our ongoing online training for sure. That is definitely being included in our list of topics.
Any other questions for Kaala? All right, thank you very much, and we'll be in touch. All right, so next on the agenda are reports from our county workforce development boards. Every county has submitted a report, so I encourage you, as you got your agenda from Allison, embedded in the agenda was a link to our WDC webpage, which has all of the county reports listed. So I encourage you to look at those. You can pull them up now if you'd like. And we'll start out with Chair David DeLuz to give an update on the Hawaii County Workforce Development Board. David?
Sorry, Leslie, this is Sandra Goodale, the Executive Director of Hawaii County. David had to leave the meeting.
Well, thank you, Sandra, for stepping up. We appreciate it. And thank you for your report.
Thank you. Just wanted to let you guys know that our next board meeting will be held on February 23rd. And at our mayor's level, the workforce initiative is a big push. So we're involved in that, and we're moving forward. Susan Kuntz will be representing the Office of Housing and Community Development on behalf of the mayor once the letter gets sent in. It wasn't available before the meeting today, so she will be on the next meeting. I just wanted to let you know, in our report, we provided a success story for Liana Lynn Wilson, and she will actually be starting with Goodwill on February 16th, the day after the holiday. So she started out as an Alike work experience candidate, was dual enrolled with WIOA, and they were putting her back at the American Job Center to work additional work experience, and they had an administrative assistant position open up, and she was able to qualify from the skills that she got at the American Job Center. So that the rest of our report is there. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or message me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sandra. Any questions for Sandra? And again, thank you for your report. Seeing none, we'll move on to Jackie Kina. Jackie, on the Kauai Workforce Development Board report, please. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the report.
Yeah, hi, everybody. So I'm just going to tell you just some highlights because I know you have all the reports, access to the reports. And so just to let you know that we are operating our AGC, and it's by appointment only from 7:45 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. And again, because of social distancing requirements and COVID restrictions, we are seeing a maximum of 5 clients at any given time. The good thing is we did see an increase since November, 150% increase of participants, which would happen nowadays. Let me see, what else? Another thing that we are working on as a board is to fill our vacancies. Our current board is comprised of 12 members, and we are looking to fill, at least 7 vacant positions right now. So that's one thing that's priority for us. Let me see, what else? And thank you to Helen Sampe, who works very quickly. Lance already reached out to us, so we will be meeting with Lance soon to talk about how McKinley can step in and help us out on Kauai. So thank you very much. And I think everything else is really in our report. Can I answer any questions from anybody?
Any questions for Jackie? Hearing none, well, thank you very much, Jackie, and referring everyone to the reports. I'm next on the reporting, so I'd like to refer you to the very extensive report provided by Linda Popolo, who is on the call actually for our Maui County Workforce Board. Our American Job Center is open. Appointments are encouraged. We do have an annex that we were able to get some adjoining space from the Maui Mall so that we could incorporate better social distancing so that people can actually come in person to use the equipment there. I wanted to say there was a myriad of things, but the one thing that I wanted to get to is I'm very pleased with the activity level of our board committees, the Maui County board committees. By design, we built committees that replicated the state level WDC committee structure, and they've all been meeting and have been very active. So we appreciate that. We have some really great private sector chairs that bring the actual voice and pulse of what's happening in our community, which, as we all know, is very tough right now with Maui County having the highest unemployment rate in the state. So lots of work going on there. I just wanted our staff is small, but we're very excited that the mayor and the county of Maui did give us another full-time position. So we're pleased to have that help because, as you know, much work is there to be done with such a skeleton staff. I believe that the AJC and under the leadership of Linda has really been an anchor in our community of bringing the nonprofit community together, as well as the University of Hawaii. So we're grateful for her leadership. One innovative project that is worth note is that is training a health and safety officer that can be at each of the hotels to start with, and then eventually in restaurants. And we've been working with the Maui Visitors Bureau and ILW Local 142 and the Department of Health and UH Maui College to put that training together so that we can really monitor compliance at all these locations so that we stay healthy as a community. And the other thing that Linda has been very active in making sure that our partners are meeting, all the AJC partners are meeting on a regular basis to share collaborative efforts, as well as even an integrated resource team that is meeting every other week. So important for us at this point in time to make sure we're leveraging each other's resources and working in concert. So that will end my report. I'll direct you to read Linda's much more comprehensive report. Those were just a few highlights. Any questions for me, or I might even defer to Linda since she's on. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the Oahu Workforce Development Board report, which I believe Tim Wong is giving for Chair Jason Chang. So thank you very much, Tim, for being here to report.
Good afternoon. Likewise, like you folks said before, our reports are all filed. But some of the highlights that we had over the past quarters, the AJCH is actually currently moving next Tuesday, February 16th. So it'll be the first day of operations at Dole Cannery. I think one thing about this is that all programs will be located on one floor, which actually makes it a true one-stop center. All co-located partners will be moving to the new location as well. So I would like to actually really thank everyone involved for their hard work and support during this move. You know how disruptive moves are, and especially everyone who actually made sure that the services to their clients will not be interrupted. A second point that I want to bring up is in December, the AJCH earned the prestigious title of a HUD Envision Center. So the AJCH has proved that it is committed to empowering households to self-sufficiency by co-locating support services for the benefits of its clients. We are the job center. We are the only job center at this time in the nation to have earned this designation. So being an Envision Center will provide opportunities to create new federal and local partnerships to improve the quality of life for the people on Oahu. And the full report is in our report as well that you folks can actually be directed to. Finally, I'd like to direct you folks to also read some of the success stories that we have at Waiʻoa programs that are included in our report. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Tim, Allison, your board and your staff on reaching such a prestigious award. Thank you for making Hawaii proud. Wow, the first and only in the nation to become AJC, to be an Envision Center. That is fabulous. And good luck on your move. I know what you're going to be doing for this long holiday weekend. So thank you. And when it's safe to do so, hopefully when we meet again as a board in person, maybe we can have a little site visit to come see your new location. We would like that very much. So let's look forward to that in our healthy future when we all are vaccinated. Congrats again.
Thank
all right. Yes. So I will move on. So if you look at the actual printed agenda, we have already done executive session. So I'm going to move into item VIII 8, reports from our WIOA partners. Thank you all for being here. Please also see the link that was provided in the agenda. Their reports are located there, but of course, we'd love to hear highlights from our partners. So first, Adult Education and Career Pathways, Helen Sampay and Erica LaCroix, excuse me, Erica, and Bernadette Howard has asked if, Erica, if you can report at this point in time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure thing. So along with our ongoing credit programs that are working along the workforce training needs of students who are actually earning degrees, we did have 2 multi-campus initiatives between November and now. You heard previously about our Oahu Back to Work program that was funded by City and County CARES. And so that has now ended, but we provided 2,250 training opportunities and serviced 1,600 Oahu residents. So this was a really great event to get people thinking about retooling themselves, entering new fields. We did some survey data at the end of that. And what we found was 13% of those had actually secured employment by mid-December. And 71% were either still actively looking or planning to seek employment in January. I think just hoping that the safety of our work environments with COVID would feel a little bit more comfortable. But we thought it would be a really great opportunity to continue to push that into February. So what we did was anybody who expressed interest in the Oahu Back to Work, whether they ended up signing up or not, there were more than 5,000 of those individuals. So we reached out for information sessions about other training opportunities that we offer, but also how they can get financial assistance for that training via the American Jobs Center Hawaii, Aulike, the Honolulu Community Action Program. So really trying to spur all of those things forward to make sure that all the momentum we got with the program didn't end. And about 110 people participated in that. But the second one we did around workforce development was partnering with Kupu Aina Corps for interns through a partnership with Kupu, DBED, and we had more than 200 interns participate in that. And so they got really hands-on skills that they can then apply to a different job field. They focused mainly on OSHA areas, basic computer skills, food industry certification. So that was a really great thing. And then we continue with our economic recovery and resilience plan that the university has come up with. The CCs are really looking at how we organize our CTE programs and being responsive to the workforce. So this also does entail work for us in some realignment within our system of the CC. So we're currently working on that. And then just one other highlight, you may want to take a look at the link around our UHCC Career Explorer program, and that is a tool that provides information about jobs, industry, sector needs, and career planning. So that's all in our report, along with, there's a second page that has more specific breakout data for the Oahu Back to Work program. So you may want to take a look at that as well. But that's all I had.
Thank you so much, Erica. Are there any questions? Exciting time for the university system and the community college system. We're so excited about everything that's happening under the Reimagine Workforce grant, and so proud of you for having the perseverance and expertise to get it. So we look forward to being your partner.
Leslie,
yes,
I know I said I didn't want to report, but some information came in this morning.
All right.
Share with the committee. The Senate Help Committee in Washington has passed on voted to confirm Dr. Cardona to be the next department director of the Department of Education, Secretary of Education, and they also confirmed Mayor Marty Walsh to be the next Department of Labor Secretary. So that's good news for us. These people are both very supportive of the work we do, and it's already reinforcing all the stuff we're doing here. And
that's good late breaking news. I had not heard it because I don't have anything up or on because of this meeting. So that is good news. We're excited about their leadership. Great. All right. Any questions more for Erica or Bernadette or Helen? All right. Thank you for your great collaboration. So next up, Maureen Bates, please.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
I'm
yes,
sorry. I think Helen Sampe has to give a report.
Oh, Helen, please. I'm so sorry. Please, Helen, thank
That's
you.
okay.
And thank you for your quick action and referrals for partnerships. That was wonderful today.
Yeah, you're welcome. They're working on it currently, which is nice. I'd like to report, first of all, for Waipahu Community School. They've created a new partnership with the National College Transition Network, who are part of the World Education. And then currently they're improving their online registration processes at Waipahu. Part of the problem is we don't have a system to accept electronic payments, so that needs to be worked on by the department itself. They also have a digital literacy and English language acquisition as barriers to employment. So they're working with KCC and have successfully completed an ICANN bridge program with them. The counseling intern program, their partnership with UH Hilo and Chaminade University continues to do well. And their National Guard Youth Challenge program in Hilo, unfortunately, will be closing down soon. Now for McKinley community, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a significant loss in revenue for the state and the department. And so we will be faced with a 10% budget cut. The COVID-19 pandemic has also affected our enrollment. And however, this spring semester, we're seeing a slight increase, and both schools offer a hybrid in-person and online classes for our students. And let's see. McKinley has designed a career and technical education career foundations program that is a career-ready program with a framework built on soft skills. And these soft skills are standards-based and were developed by members of the Department of Education and the workforce, those businesses that we are connected directly with. And so we're quite excited about implementing, and so we've already started on the island of Kauai, and so hopefully through Waimea High School and our partners on Kauai, we can also offer and help the AJC Center there. Professional development training for our McKinley campus teachers were held, and the standout author, Ron Jenkins did the presentation for our staff. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And are there any questions for her? Well, thank you for your report, and thank you for doing good things with continual faced budget challenges. So thank you for your work. Next reporting will be from vocational rehabilitation. Maureen Bates.
Thank you, Chair. As far as DVR services, we are currently still in an active order of selection, mostly associated with our staffing hiring freeze under the executive memorandum from the governor. So we've taken over 800 people off the waiting list, but we still have over 800 still awaiting services at this time. And we hope to continue to resolve that as we exit cases out of services. And so hopefully in the coming months, we'll get that 800 down, and then the wait list of 800 down. In addition, our job retention rates measured for the period of July through 2020 through September 2020 for the first 6 months was 69%, meaning that people who were employed in February of 2020 retained employment through September of 2020 at a 69% rate that we placed. But the people who were employed in July of 2020 retained employment at a 52% rate, July of 2019 and measured, through September of 2020, they retained it at a 52% rate, which obviously is associated with the pandemic impacts. So we're just monitoring that as well as continuing to place people into jobs. And you can see that in our report. We've got success stories also highlighted. Another piece that wasn't shared on our reporting was that our blind vendors have been, our blind vending program that is situated statewide, but is run out of our Ho'opono program on Oahu. They're in receipt of about over $450,000 for reopening supports. So we haven't officially gotten the funding and the restrictions associated with that funding, but comes under CARES Act. And that's the only CARES Act money that we directly will be in receipt of. So if anybody has any questions about our report or wants more additional information, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for Maureen? Thank you, Maureen. I'm so glad to see the reopening funding coming through for the program, for the blind program. Thank you. So next report is Wagner Pizer, Markar Freitas from Workforce Development Division. Markar.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to touch on, of course, the Oahu's report. We are moving to a new location. 19 of our staff will be at the new AJC. And really this is to highlight the leveraging of funds, the co-enrollment, and so that the public can just go to one location and really receive all those services. So that includes the Senior Community Services Program, the Veteran Program, as well as all the other programs that are provided by the Workforce Development Division. I also wanted to applaud the city, of course, for their ability to pivot services to the disabled youth during this pandemic. So the Workforce Development Division contracts with the city to provide services under the DEI, the Disability Employment Initiative. So with their innovative idea, they were able to provide virtual services to youth with disabilities. So it may not have been high tech, but the videos were able to go to the job site and highlight what it would be to work at those various companies. And they were also highlighted as part of Workforce GPS. So we'll give you more information on that. And the last thing I wanted to share really was about the services to those who are high risk ex-offenders, and to encourage employers hiring the ex-offenders, especially with recovering from drug addiction. We applied for a federal bonding program in partnership with WDC. So Allison connected us with Public Safety as well as Department of Health to apply for a grant, and hopefully we'll receive positive results on that. So thank you. That's all I needed to report on.
Great. Thank you, Markar, so much for your work. And it is exciting to have the co-location with so many of your staff in the AJC. That is definitely going to fulfill its mission of an Envision Center. Great. Any questions for Markar? Hearing none, I think that concludes our reports. I just wanted to, again, thank our current board members who have agreed to serve again and have been nominated by the governor for your continued service. We're very grateful for your time and expertise. And I wanted to again congratulate all the new members that we talked about that are joining us, that have been waiting a very long time for governor's formal appointments. You will sail through confirmation, and we of course will support you in that process. And again, thank you for your time. Just a note, our meeting schedule for this year, 2021, we'll be meeting quarterly on the second Thursdays of the month from 9:30 to 12:30. The next meetings are scheduled for May 13th, August 12th, and November 18th. So please mark your calendars accordingly. Does anybody have any announcements that they would like to bring up at this time? Right? I'm hearing none. I am going to then take the chair's prerogative for one. And as we welcome the year of the ox, Kung Hee Fat Choi, Happy New Year, as I hope you all get some sweet treats for Valentine's Day. Chocolate is what I have on order. And then of course, for those of you who get the long weekend, please enjoy the holiday. But I did want to let you know that February is also Black History Month. So I would recommend any good readings. There's a lot of great films coming out this month on, because I think we're all living on Netflix, Hulu, Showtime, CNN, HBO Plus, all of the above. There are a lot of great films coming out with historical profiles of an amazing historical contributions of African Americans that history has not showcased as they should have. So I would encourage you for that, for any extra watching. And then February 21st through the 26th is National Engineering Week. So I'd like to say thank you and congratulate Cheryl Nojima, who is a breakthrough pioneer broken glass ceilings for women in engineering, as being a principal in her own firm. And any other engineers on the board? Glenn, are you an engineer? I think, or I know that you work with a lot of engineers and interpret a lot of engineering plans, but thank you for your contributions. I'm excited about the engineering pilot that's happening in the 3 schools. And also to let you know, on a personal note, this will be our 21st celebration of Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day, which is always the Thursday of National Engineering Week. And this year it will be virtual. Usually we do one in-person event at UH Manoa with the College of Engineering, and one here on Maui with the utility anchors that, but it will be virtual this year. So we'll be able to have students from every island on the state. We're targeting middle school girls, and I will have Allison get the flyer out for that if you want to put that out. We made great progress. Erica can correct me, but when we started, we had less than 10% women enrolled in getting degrees from the UH College of Engineering. And last year we pushed up all close to 30%, about 27%. So we are moving the dial. All right, are there any other announcements? I'm seeing no one or hearing no one, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 12:33.
So moved.
Okay, Bernadette, I saw her hand first moved, and Alan seconded. All in favor, we can go yay. I don't think there are any opposed or any abstentions, so I will declare the meeting adjourned at 12:33. Thank you all for your time, for your work, and particularly thanking our staff for keeping us going. Take care, everyone. Be well, be healthy.
Kung Hee Fat Choi.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everyone.
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha.